So I was watching a YouTube channel recently, and they were talking about the Goosebump book, Be Careful What You Wish For. And I didn't remember it at first. But as he described the beginning of it, he's like, oh, the main character's name's Samantha Bird. I'm like, yeah, I don't remember this. And he's like, and then the bully's like main bully line was, why don't you fly away, Bird? And I'm like, oh, I remember this. Everything came flooding back to me. And for the reasons that like the YouTuber did not like the story are the reasons that I did like it and I remember it. So the premise of that Goosebump book is there's a girl and she gets bullied all the time and she ends up accidentally helping a witch. And the witch promises to give her wishes for helping her, but the wishes go horribly awry to the point where at the end the girl's like, look, I just wish that I never met you and everything just went back to normal, okay? So she grants that wish, and then the bully ends up running into the witch and wishes for a bird to fly away, and then the main character turns into a bird and flies away. It talks about her like looking for worms in the ground and then looking to the sky and flying away. And I'm just like, oh, it's like a bad ending, but at the same time, I remember really liking it because of the transformation for the ending. Like, she's just a bird now. And the TV show did something a little different, where instead of like, screwing over the main character, all of that still happens, but then the bully's like, I wish everyone loved me and would always admire me, so she gets turned to stone. Oh, I love it. I will say, I always loved the TF stuff that could come with Goosebump stories. Like, I was always kind of looking for it without knowing I was looking for it. But when I started reading the Give Yourself Goosebumps, like the Choose Your Own Adventure stories, and when those had transformation scenes in them, especially when they were like the bad end where you had to start over, those hit very differently for me. I remember being in the fourth grade and like coming across those, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know why I love this, but I really love this. I want more of this, and I would just like try to find it. You forget the name of it, but there was one where this kid decided to play a prank on his dad for getting a cuckoo clock, so he turned the head of the bird backwards, and it started sending him further and further back in his life. That is the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. Chicken Chicken was a fun one, because this, I think it's, a girl and her brother are rude to this witch, so she curses them to turn into chickens, and over the course of the book, it doesn't happen immediately. They're like growing feathers, and they have to pull the feathers out, and it hurts. And they're trying to hide the transformation, but like it gets to a point more and more where they can't hide it. So before they fully turn into chickens, they try to go back to apologize to the witch. That one was fun. And then, oh god, what was the one where the kid falls asleep and falls into like a wormhole where he keeps waking up in different lives? Oh man, what was the name of it? The cover has like this giant monster, like this giant bumpy hairy monster hand reaching out from under the bed to grab the kid that's sleeping in it. Don't Go to Sleep. That's what it was called. I just remembered. I liked that book because it had unexpected transformation stuff in it. Alright, I'll get back to that in a second. You got into TF stuff from Ben 10, Rye Blast? Nice! On the topic of Give Yourself Goosebumps, you had one of the mummy in a museum, and one route had you trade places with the mummy, becoming the mummy and the mummy becoming you. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I remember one with a museum in the Give Yourself Goosebumps where you got put into this machine that removed all of the bones from your body. So you just end up as this like blob of flesh on the floor. You just become basically a blob moving around. For Chicken Chicken, they do turn back into humans. They get to the witch, they apologize, she mothers a spell, and then they turn back to normal. So she gives them some food to thank them for apologizing. And then, like, they're eating and then they belch while they're eating, so their manners are rude. So then she starts to turn them into pigs, and that's how it ends. It's like, well, I don't think you're going to be plucking any feathers out from this one. Let's Get Invisible was a good one. I remember that one being kind of scary as a kid. In Let's Get Invisible, it's these kids that find a mirror upstairs, and it has like a pull switch on the mirror, kind of like for a ceiling fan or something, if I remember it right. Whenever you pull the switch, you turn invisible. So the friends kind of take turns doing that. And I think the main character does it, but like eventually he kind of describes it after being invisible for a while. He is feels like he's pulled towards the mirror, and he feels a bit uneasy about doing it more and more. So he wants to stop, but his friends want to do it again, and they end up doing it like without everyone together. And they force him to go invisible eventually. And it turns out that after they're invisible for so long, they get sucked into the mirror and their reflection takes their place while they're just trapped in the mirror forever. And the mirror dimension is described in a very like trippy way. It's not just like a reflected room where you're forced to like reflect the other person. It's like shifting. It's like a shifting background of lights and stuff. It's very trippy. And the main character almost doesn't get out from that. But then the main character's brother, who is left handed, which is emphasized in the book, ends up shattering the mirror and freeing everyone from it. And then it talks about how the other reflections get sucked back in, and the left-handed brother is like hanging on so he doesn't get sucked back in. And then the main character is released. So no more mirror, right? But the ending of the book has that little brother who's left-handed playing catch with his older brother, but he's throwing the ball with his right hand. So that reflection got out while the other one is just trapped forever in the mirror dimension. It's pretty like, oh shit. That's a horrific good twist ending. Blob of Flesh, the first that reminds you of Family Guy, Peter wished for no bones, and second, it sort of reminds you of SCP, specifically when day breaks in the flesh that hates. I'm not familiar with that one, but I do like SCPs. They're very fun. The Don't Go to Sleep book. It's really interesting because it's this kid that falls asleep he wants to sleep on this bed in the attic, and his parents won't let him, so he sneaks up there to do it. But when he sleeps on that bed, sleeping there causes him to fall into this portal into alternate realities. And sometimes those changes are more subtle, and sometimes they are more overt. It's really trippy because it's not like he falls into an actual portal. It's sort of like something that he gets swept up in. Like, he'll just go to sleep and he'll wake up somewhere different. But, like, reality will sort of change to reflect that. I don't remember the book to show differences, but, like, let's say the show. In one reality he wakes up in, he's a famous sports star, like, very good at it. And then in another reality, he's a famous surgeon. In the book, there are some realities he goes to where he is not human. There's one where he's just a giant monster that's walking around the town and everyone's terrified of him, and he like eats a car because he has this natural desire to eat something, and the car satisfied his appetite. The government ends up capturing him to try to control this, and they put him in a cell. So the kid is freaking out because he's locked up in a cell, and he's like, oh wait, I can just go to sleep and I'll wake up somewhere different so I can get out of this. So he does that, but when he wakes up, he's still in the jail cell, and he's upset at first until he realizes he's been turned into a squirrel. So even though he didn't wake up somewhere else, like his body's still changed through sleeping. So now he's a squirrel, and he gets out of the jail cell now because he's so small. So that was an interesting book too. I don't remember how I think he's able to break out of the wormhole's influence. I don't remember how he does it, but the ending of the book, like he's like, okay, I don't want to sleep in that bed. I thought I did, but that's how I wound up in this situation in the first place. And then his parents like, hey, we know you really wanted to sleep in that bed, so here you go. We moved all of your stuff from your room up to here. You just got reminded of the series of books called Tremors. Was sort of like Goosebumps. There's a magic typewriter, boy type that he wants to fly, and he becomes a bat. He eventually turned back, and then one of the kids was halfway through typing something like, I wish I was a. Then one of the other kids pushes him out of the way and finishes the sentence with the word monster. So that kid who pushed in became a monster. So how that book ended with the man who got the typewriter typed for everything to go away, so the kid turns back to normal and the typewriter is nowhere to be seen. That sounds like a really fun adventure. I like that. I mean, kids like to play pretend, right? Kids play pretend, they pretend they're animals or other stuff like that. I was the same way. That desire just never really left me. I still enjoy it. It's really fun.